So most of us know about the 5 senses that we have, but less people know that we have a lot of other senses like thermoception for temperature, proprioception is understanding where your joints are in space, nociception is for pain, and interoception is an understanding of the state of the physiology of the inside of your body. So it's things like, how do you know when you're hungry? How do you know when you need to use the bathroom? And if you've got young children, then you see that from 0 to 2, they go from not being able to recognize those signals at all to being able to control their bowels and their bladder. And you can really take it further than that. I think you're probably picking up on the piece where I said that I can tell about 2 days before I'm starting to get sick, like a cold or flu. And I think there's 2 reasons that I have honed that skill. One is obviously I went to medical school, so I understand the body inside out. But the other one is that I've had over 20 years of yoga practice now. And in yoga, you connect your mind and your body very much. So you just become very aware of biofeedback from your body. People who do a lot of sport, I think, would say the same thing. And then there are just some people who are really good at reading body language and listening to their own body. You know, this may have been a thing since childhood. And then, of course, there's all the people who have the potential to grow that skill.
I'm so curious about all the different ways that we can grow awareness, like you spoke to, the many different facets in which we can, in arenas of our own physiology and mindset. And I'm curious what you think about extrasensory perception, like outside of just our 5 senses, what people call the 6th sense. What's the reality of that, do you feel?
So I actually call interoception the 6th sense.
Okay.
But yeah, there is that phrase in like common, pop language or whatever. So I've become much more interested in this recently for a variety of reasons. And if we have a spectrum from science to spirituality, I would say the reasons go along that spectrum. So much more on the science side of things. We do know that some of our hormones are released into the atmosphere through our sweat. So the steroid hormones like cortisol, estrogen, and progesterone particularly. So this is the reason that women who live together or work closely together synchronize their menstrual cycles within 2 months. It's because particles of those hormones are in our sweat and they're released around us. And if we're interacting with each other closely, then they will go into our skin and, alter the levels of hormones in other people. And regardless of your gender, this happens with cortisol, the stress hormone. So there's an evolutionary explanation to this, which is that we needed to respond to the stress levels of the leader of the tribe. And so in this day and age, regardless of gender, like I said, depending on where you are in the hierarchy of an organization or a family or a group, social group, we do feel the stress levels of the most senior person. So it's like in a troop of gorillas, the stress level of the silverback gorilla affects the other gorillas more than ones who are equal to each other. And so if you think that we are communicating, let's say, non-consciously through the effect of hormones that may be in the atmosphere around us, then that's already the physiology of communicating outside of our bodies, right? And then I've always said, I grew up in the 70s, that science fiction is just science that hasn't been proven yet. So a lot of things that I watched on Star Trek and Star Wars when I was a kid are, the other day, because we were in LA, I was walking down the road and this thing that looks like a shopping cart, but it's a robot, was walking towards me saying, "I am on delivery." And it was just on its own. And, in London, we didn't have those yet. So I was a bit like, wow, that's very science fiction. So if you've honed your interoception, if you've honed your intuition, and let's add in, if you're very close to someone, so you know them really well, I do believe it's possible to, think of someone and then they message you, or to just have a sense that someone's going through something and you should call them. Is that what you meant when you were asking?
Sure, yeah. I just picking up on, and we can dive deeper into intuition here and what that means in your eyes, but having those gut feelings, having those senses of a direction that you might move in, you might sense danger, you might sense opportunity, and it's really your ability to pay attention to more subtle frequencies and energies that are happening all around us that are invisible.